We get this question all the time, which is, can I sue my employer for my on-the-job injury? Well, can you? Hi everyone, this is Britt Morrell with the Colorado law firm Kaplan Morrell. We've been helping injured and disabled workers and their families get the benefits they deserve since 1997. We would love to be able to help you. If you found this video to be helpful, please be sure to hit like and subscribe and comment below, and we'd love for you to join our online community. So in this video, I'm going to discuss a really common question, which is, can I sue my employer for my work injury? And we'll talk about the pros and cons of going through workers' compensation versus the pros and cons of suing your employer, if you even have that choice. So the general rule is, if your employer has workers' compensation insurance, then you can't sue your employer. And that comes from a statutory law, meaning that the General Assembly basically decided, look, we're going to set up this system for workers' compensation. And what it meant was employers had to carry workers' compensation insurance that covered all on-the-job injuries, and it covered job injuries even if the employee was at fault. What did the employers get for having to pay for all on-the-job injuries? What they got was immunity from lawsuits for injuries that the employer caused through their negligence. It's called the exclusive remedy doctrine. And so there are some limited exceptions to this rule. Obviously, if your employer doesn't carry workers' compensation insurance and you've been injured on the job, you have a choice. You can sue them under negligence, or you can still ask for workers' compensation benefits. It's just you have to get the employer to pay because they don't have an insurance company to pay. And some intentional injuries, like sexual harassment and assaults, are also not covered under workers' compensation, and therefore you can sue. But other than those two examples, generally you are limited to workers' compensation benefits, and that's good and bad. So let's talk about a situation where you've been injured on a job and you find out that your employer doesn't have workers' compensation insurance. At that point, you've got a choice. Do I go and through workers' compensation and get benefits that way, or do I sue? And that's a choice you have to make. There's some good things about going through workers' compensation rather than suing for negligence. In workers' compensation, you don't have to prove fault, and your benefits aren't reduced or even denied if you are also partially at fault. So not having to prove fault is a huge benefit, because oftentimes your injury isn't due to your employer's fault or negligence. And if that's the case, then you're not going to be able to sue them because there was no negligence. The disadvantages of going through workers' compensation are work comp benefits are limited, and sometimes you can recover more damages under a lawsuit for negligence. So for example, in a lawsuit for negligence, you can recover partial lost wages after max medical improvement. Work comp you can't. In a lawsuit, you can get pain and suffering. In work comp you can't. Now, there's some good and bads about filing a lawsuit against your employer. The pros are, as I talked about, you have access to more damages. The problems with it is it's harder to prove negligence. Your recovery can be denied or reduced if you assumed the risk or if you were partially negligent. They may not have enough insurance to cover the damage, and it's a long process. A lawsuit for negligence is typically going to last 2, 3, 4 years before you see anything, and that's assuming there's an insurance company that will pay. If you or a loved one has been injured on the job, whether you think it's intentional or not, whether or not you think you have a lawsuit against the employer, or you're limited under workers' compensation, why don't you give us a call, text us, go to our website. We'd be happy to talk with you. Our initial consultations are free, confidential, and will give you peace of mind when you know your rights. And with that, thank you for spending part of your day with me.